This week, I'm heading to London to perform with Penn and Teller for 2 weeks at the London Palladium. We had a great time in New York, and it was such an honor to perform at Radio City Music Hall. Talking with one of my longtime friends today, Katrine Spang-Hanssen. I say her name as well as I can, being from America. She's Danish, but she's now an American citizen and lives in San Francisco. She's a great drummer, and she's one half of the comedy juggling duo along with Scotty Meltzer at Comedy Industries. We talk a lot about working as a performing duo. They do a lot of corporate trade shows and events around the world. A small disclaimer, I've known Scotty and Katrina for going on decades now. If you've heard of it, they are movie nighters along with Penn Jillette and several others. I say that because we often find ourselves hilarious. To outsiders, it might sound a little harsh. Hopefully you get our humor and find it funny. If you don't, please feel free to turn it off. I won't be offended. All right, I'll give my little spiel at the top here.
Okay.
This week on the Stereo Image, we're lucky enough to have Katrine Spang-Hanssen. Did I say it right or close enough?
Oh, that's as best as anyone from Movie Night has ever done.
Well, I think I've studied a lot of Australian, and I feel like I can speak the lingo. But it's so great that we got you on because you're the ideal. I say this a lot, but you're really one of the ideal candidates for this show because the show is all about people that aren't necessarily full-time musicians, but are good musicians and also make their living doing something else. And I always point out David Silverman and Bill Prady but they're amateurs. I mean, you're a professional working musician in addition to being a professional working clown. Or no, you work with a professional clown. Never mind. You're a juggler and you work with a professional clown.
So closely linked.
What do they call them? What is it? The variety arts.
Variety arts.
Yes,
you open every night for one of those.
I do open for the variety artists. But so what I wanted to ask is, there's a lot I want to ask. But how much does music play in your juggling when you're putting together a juggling routine? Are you listening to music too, or do you ever use music in your routines, or is it something that you just do you have on in the background? All that kind of stuff first. That's the first major topic.
Well, I mean, certainly. I mean, when I practice juggling, I often listen to music while juggling. And it's a weird thing because for the listeners who are not familiar with my glorious musical career, I play drums. And there is an odd...
That's an instrument.
Sort of.
Some say.
And there's a lot of overlap in juggling and drumming in that there's an element of rhythm, there's an element of counting, and there's independence of limbs. Those are, so there's a fair amount of cross-pollination between those two things, those two ridiculous things I have decided to spend my life on.
Well, yeah, but it's obviously worked out. So.
Yeah.
But when you're listening while practicing, are you listening to things that are rhythmically matched with what you're trying to do, or you just have something on in the background?
I just have something on that's upbeat. I find myself very often when I listen to music that I need to listen to music without doing other things. So it has to be something that's groove oriented, not with a lot of changes, not with a lot of complexity. So when I listen to, my favorite music is jazz, but I prefer to listen to jazz without doing other things. I know there are a lot of people who can listen to jazz and then they can read and then
I know.
I can't really
I can't do it. I can't do it either. I can't read and listen to music.
No, I can't do it either. I can cook. That's the one thing I can do. I can cook and listen to music because I can, like, a lot of cooking is like rudimentary, cutting things. Then I can listen to music. But, I have them as separate activities.
Yeah, I can't cook, so it's not an issue. No, I've tried for years to, put something on and I read the same sentence 4 times in a row and just give up because I'm listening to what Wynton Kelly's doing with his left hand. and I'm, or whatever, what Bill Evans is doing, rather than what John Grisham wrote. So I can't. My brain is too small.
I can guarantee you that what Wynton Kelly is doing with his left hand is more exciting than John Grisham.
What John Grisham wrote, yeah, I agree. I agree. But I know you guys, talk incessantly during your career. But do you ever use music behind like a juggling routine, or just as a joke, or
not much? Not we do a little. Sometimes we do a little musical opening, and we have a routine where, ironically, Scotty plays drums. So for the uninitiated listener, I do a juggling act with a guy named Scotty Meltzer.
I should have introduced you better, but yes, talk about the big comedy industries a little bit, and your big. Tell us all your accomplishments.
Oh yes, a glorious career as comedy industry. So I, for a long time, performed just solely as a comedy juggler, and I did it for many years with a different partner. And then when I was around 30, I started working with Scotty. And so we do, it's like a comedy juggling act. But that morphed into being, not only do we have an act, but we also work for, we have a little company that's called Comedy Industries, where we write and perform scripts for corporations. So it's essentially for sales meetings, trade shows, and conferences, and that sort of thing, where we make their messaging more fun and exciting than they could. So we write jokes about incredibly boring things.
Now.
So the entry to comedy there is the bar is very low, right? Because the average engineer isn't, it's not their shtick. They're not. It's not what they're trained to do. So when we come in and we talk the talk and can make it funny and interesting, it lends to a lot of opportunities for rebookings and other bookings and so on. So we've made a good living doing that. And that means that for the most part, what we focus on the most is telling jokes. So we do a lot of shows nowadays where we actually don't juggle. We're just telling the jokes, and giving the company spiel. But we also do have an act, and we also get hired to do our act. And in that act, we do have music. We have music a little bit up front, and we do a routine where Scotty sometimes plays drums because he's trained as a drummer, actually, and he has some real rudimentary skills.
Rudimentary
he has some chops, actually. He's not focused on it at all, really.
Well, no,
life. So he's not really a working musician, and probably not quite proficient enough at this point to do that. But he can play drums and plays reasonably well, and really has some good rudiments. So we have this.
But no taste. He has no taste.
He has no taste. That's an entirely different story. But he's
going to love this.
Oh, he's going to love it. He knows he has no taste.
Good. Yep.
This is not news to him.
Well, as you were saying, you started to talk a little bit about you worked with a different partner before, but let's go back even further. How did you come to America from Greenland? How did that
Denmark.
happen? Same thing.
Denmark. Well, it is.
Amsterdam? Yeah. So, so tell us about your childhood as a waif growing up in Scandinavia. And when you boarded a schooner to America, a three-masted schooner.
I come from a long line of musicians and people in academia. And so what does a person like me do to rebel? I decide to play drums. No one in the family was doing that. And I decide to juggle, which certainly no one was doing that. And so I met my old partner when I was traveling through America when I was 18, and I fell in love with San Francisco, and I fell in love with the variety arts. I fell in love with the idea that you could do a show that was situational. So, when you do a juggling act, the comedy will all be based on the situations that you create right here and right now. So everybody can enjoy it. It doesn't matter what age or what political observance or whatever.
Right.
You can create an event that everybody can enjoy. And I totally fell in love with it. I was like, oh, this is the greatest thing ever. I want to do this. Mm-hmm. And so I moved here when I was 20 to pursue that, and thought, I'm going to give it a couple of years. And then I just never went back to Denmark.
Wow.
And I was totally destined for a different career. I was destined to go into academia, and it was what I was going to do. But.
Yes. Talk about your family a little bit, because your brother's a great conductor, right?
He's an organ player, classical organ player, and he also plays jazz. And we have so many musicians in the family; it's absolutely ridiculous. So his two daughters are professional cello and violin player in symphonies and jazz players. It's littered with them. We have too many. too many musicians.
And your parents were both musical?
No, well, they played for fun, but they went up. They were in academia. They didn't do it for real, if you will. I mean, they did it for real. They enjoyed it, but they never made a career out of it.
Right, wisely.
There's my brother always said, the organ playing one. He said, I don't think you should ever pursue a career in music unless you can't think of another career, unless it's the only thing you can imagine yourself doing.
Well, I didn't even go that far. It's the only thing I can do. So it really narrowed the whole thing for me.
But when you play as well as you, Jonesy.
Oh, stop. But no, when people say, "Oh, you're so good," I say, "What's the only thing I can do? I can turn on the television 9 times out of 10." But well, so coming back to when you were 20 and you came here, what was the scene like in San Francisco then? Was it a Jefferson Airplane video, or was it like
Yeah, I live in the Haight-Ashbury, so
right.
It was more Grateful Dead, but with sprinkle of some Jefferson Airplane. Imagine my joy.
Oh yeah.
When I first came to San Francisco, I mean, from a street performing standpoint, which is how I started out. I started out as a street performer, not unlike your boss, Penn. Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. I was all about doing streets, and so it was great. The scene was incredibly vibrant, and so was the music scene here. The music scene in the 90s in San Francisco was fantastic, and San Francisco has sinned both in terms of street performing. There are less pitches here for people to do street performing as variety arts, so it's a little hard for young blood to come here and develop. Mm-hmm. And similarly for music, San Francisco became so expensive that musicians can't really afford to live here.
Right.
I mean, a lot of the vibrancy of the Bay Area moved to the East Bay, but even that, compared to what it was like, I don't think it has quite the same potency as it once did. But when I came here, it was like, whoa, yeah, it was fabulous.
And did you get to see a lot of jazz in San Francisco, like when you got here?
Yeah, I got to see both jazz and other stuff. It was just like, I mean, it was great. And, you get to play. I got to play here with a lot of people who were really great. And there was also, and that goes really ironically, both for the juggling scene and the variety art scene and for the music scene. Got to see so many great acts here that shaped what I became and what I wanted to do. And I think it's a little harder now. They're less. I think this isn't just a San Francisco trend, by the way. I think this trend is
everywhere.
Is certainly everywhere, and that trend also goes to Europe. Although I went to the freaking jazz festival in Copenhagen for the first time in
That's
decades.
in Sweden, right?
Yes. Close enough.
Okay.
Unbelievable. I mean, it's like people really show up. People show up there. They listen. They don't sit on their phones.
Right.
They clap after every solo. They know their etiquette.
Wow.
It was just like, wow, this is awesome. Yeah.
Well, I mean, you just described my post Penn and Teller career hopes. You know what I mean? To be able to go to Europe and play music and have people listen. But when you got here, were you already working as a drummer as well, or did you just start
Not really. No,
Mm-hmm.
I played, I really didn't get to the drums on a serious level until I was in my early 20s. And that came out of, I had played other instruments when I was a kid because family, in my family,
Sure.
it was not optional. You had to play. And then I played piano. And then I had this much older brother who was already a pro. So it was like being compared to him wasn't fun. Then I played clarinet. And then we had to play duets for, family events. And clarinet is B flat instrument. So I had to transpose. And I was
Right.
like, can I swear on this?
Sure, fucking A.
This is so fucked up. I have to transpose, and he's so much better than me. I hate this. And I really wanted to play drums. It was all I wanted to do. My parents wouldn't let me. I played in high school, but I played at school because they wouldn't let me have a drum set at all.
Wow. Well, I mean, there's some wisdom in that.
Yeah, it taught me how to read music and all that. So when I got to when I was living with unsuspecting and unhappy roommates in San Francisco, I was like, I'm moving a drum set in here and screw you people, I have the lease. So that's how I really hunkered down and became serious about drums. And again, I think that I had a lot of the fundamentals, because I had learned how to read music and I had played some drums. And then there was all the independence that comes from unicycling and juggling, which I was already doing for a living at this point, really was quite helpful in terms of, I think, the brain thing that comes with playing drums, with separating what each limb does.
Yeah, yeah. Well, when you first started playing, were you just playing any kind of gigs you could get, or were you gravitating towards jazz? Were you looking for jazz musicians to jam with, or were you just, were you in like a cover band back then, or how did you sort of get to,
playing
kind of music that you, exactly. Yeah, that's, what I mean.
Yeah, I know what you mean. And I started off playing, in rock music, and that's what I had done, rock and roll. And when I was in high school and stuff,
nothing wrong with that.
Rock and roll it's a little easier to keep a steady 4/4 beat than
Not according to Ringo Starr. It is. Than
it is when you're playing jazz. But then as I grew up listening to jazz. My brother was always playing jazz, and he was a lot older, so I spent a lot of my childhood with drunken Danes as a little kid under the table in jazz bars. So I'd grown up on it, and it was, definitely in my blood. So as soon as I felt like I had the facility to do so, I started playing jazz, played every possible gig, every shitty gig I could find when I was not drumming. And then there was one other thing that I learned from this, which is, the variety arts for me, because I'm an okay drummer. But I'm not a great drummer. I'm not like, from me to an Allison Miller, there's a wide gap. I'm good enough to get paid. I'm good enough to, for people to call me to do it. But I know how good I'm not and how far there is to the world class. But I learned that when I play jazz gigs, you can play with anyone, even people you don't know, if you know how to read music. Now, and that fit very well with my lifestyle of traveling as much as I do in the variety arts, because that's what pays most of my bills is the juggling comedy gigs. So jazz, you can play any pickup gig. It's a little harder, I found, with, a lot of rock bands and dance band music. They, at least when I was that age, they wanted to make it. And it was like, let's have the matching satin jackets, and we're going to go on tour, and you're going to sleep rolled up in a drum rug between the bass amp and the guitar. And it's like, okay, no, I can't do those gigs because they don't pay. Well, I can do jazz gigs that don't pay.
Well, you can do jazz gigs because they know they're never going to make it.
Exactly.
There's no ambition there at all. No, but I mean, jazz, I found in my many, many years that jazz musicians are more accepting of someone playing with them that they don't know. You feel them out and you see how the groove is, and it's kind of, it's not a band in the sense that, like you said, matching jackets and all that stuff. It's musicians playing music together. That's a different vibe than we're going to play, this AC/DC song that we all learned, and you got to play the exact same part that the drummer played,
Exactly.
and you can, at least 20 years ago, there were many, many opportunities to sit in at clubs and go around major cities and, see who's playing where, and, maybe the last set they'll let you sit in. Or, as a working jazz musician, you could get a gig in a hotel lounge or something, that's relaxed and cool. But now most of that, as you said, a lot of that's gone too.
Yeah, but one of the beauties of jazz is its improvised nature, right? So very often, if you meet everybody on the bandstand within a very short amount of time, one of the things I love about jazz is that it's what's best about America to me. It's the conversation that you're having a conversation. So you can play with people you've never met before, and within a very short amount of time, you figure out how can we have this conversation.
Yes. Yeah.
And in dance, I love playing dance band music as well, but it's different. It's a different thing.
It is. It's true, because when you're playing jazz, you're creating stuff in the moment, and everything changes depending on, oh, wait a minute, the bass player just dropped a low E bomb, and I'm going to accent that on the drums because that's hip. And that kind of thoughts, that's the way your brain's working in those gigs. And when you're playing in a dance band, it's all about keeping the atmosphere, the party going, and everybody's into it. And you're working as a band, as one unit, more so than, 5 or 6 individuals playing together to create a sound. You're working as a unit in a band, I always think. You know what I mean?
You are working more towards keeping the pulse. I mean, as a drummer,
right.
It's about keeping that pulse, making people feel like, oh, I want to move.
And you're not going to stretch out on a 10 chorus solo in the middle of a dance tune. That's not called for. I mean, some of the greatest moments, I've had are the essence of jazz, which is the unexpected. I would be playing with this great trumpet player, Herb Pomeroy, and he's playing this tune that we've played several times before, and all of a sudden he'll change keys and play 4 more choruses, and you're scrambling to make sure you're playing the right shit behind him.
Yeah,
but he's playing stuff that's like another level, and you're watching him, and I still have this visual memory, which is, he's standing there and he's playing, and I'm behind him, and he just drops down, we're playing in C, and he just drops down three flats, just with his left hand, and I caught it, and all of a sudden we're in E flat for the next 4 choruses. You know what I mean? And that kind of stuff, is what I love about playing with other musicians. Is I love playing solo piano, and I love playing in a duo. But when you're playing behind horn players and you're playing with guys that you don't know that well, you get a chance to really dig deep and pull out, use skills that you had forgotten you had.
Yeah.
But
I love the coloring that you can do in jazz. Like that's from the drummer's perspective, that's not the opportunity you have in dance band music.
Right. Right. No, because it's 4 on the floor.
It's like, it's a different thing. But I love both, but jazz is like this primal thing for me, I think, because I grew up with it as much as I did.
And I was thinking, because the Herb Pomeroy thing reminded me of this guy, Dick Johnson, who was a great clarinetist and saxophone player. He led the Artie Shaw band when Artie Shaw brought it back together. He said he would only do it if Dick Johnson would play. And he was a master musician. But he was this old school, 40s and 50s guy, and we're playing this tune, and all of a sudden we're coming up to the end of the tune, and he just pulls the horn out of his mouth. He goes, "Bring another drink." And I'm like, what? What? We come to the end of the tune, and he he does a break and he goes, "Din, din, 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 din," which is, there's a song by the Nat Cole Trio. I think it's called "Waiter, Bring Another Drink." And he wanted to use that lick for the end of the tune. And he just assumed that I would know that, right? And I mean, this tune, you really got to look it up because it's hysterical. It's the words are so amazing. It's like, we started lushing, the chicks got high, but they weren't high enough. So I whispered to the bartender in his ear, oh no. He goes, we started lushing, the chicks got high, but they weren't high enough. Then there's something like, the next line is like, the chicks got rough, awful stuff. So let this be a lesson. Da, 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 da. And he says, and the last line of the tune is, "Waiter, bring another drink." And it's just, but the fact that that's only going to happen under jazz circumstances. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's not going to happen.
No,
it's not going to happen in the middle of a dance gig,
No.
And
that's the other thing is, you can choose tunes. You choose tunes based on what's the vibe of this band, what will work here, where are we at with this group. There's no preordained set list necessarily, or
right.
You just go, this is what we're going to do. On that topic, I had a being from Denmark, no one ever in Denmark says "I love you." We just don't use that phrase. And I was playing with a sax player I hadn't played with before, and we had this gig, and I always had this thing, oh man, Americans say "I love you" all the time. They fucking say it when you hand them a cup of coffee. They go, "I love you," and it's like, it's overused, right?
Not to me.
So
but go ahead.
The sax player is playing, and I turn to him and he looks me straight in the eye and he goes, "I love you," and I go, "Oh, this is just too much. I mean, I just met you and I feel incredibly uncomfortable." And I go, "Oh, what?" And he looks at me even more intensely. I love you. And I'm so flummoxed. And he repeats this like 3 times, and I go, "I didn't play that well in the last tune. What is this? Is he hitting on me? What's going on here?" Turns out we were going to play the tune "I Love You."
Sure, the Cole Porter tune. Yeah. I saw it coming.
You saw it coming.
That's great.
That I had gone in a completely different direction.
Oh, sure.
And
why wouldn't
for many years, I played with that guy. He unfortunately passed away a couple of years ago.
Oh.
And every time we saw each other, we were like, "I love you."
Oh, geez, that's great. Well, so let's talk a little bit more about. So you're in San Francisco and it's the 90s and you're starting to play some gigs and you got your own apartment that you can kick people out of if they don't like your drumming, which is all good. How did you come about meeting our nemesis?
Our nemesis Scotty. Well, I had actually met nemesis Scotty when I was 18. When I first saw street performing, when I first saw the variety arts, he was in a street performing competition where he came in first with his partner, and the guy that I ended up working with came in second. And so I met Scotty then, and we were always colleagues, but not close. And then we played a gig together. Or did a gig together, as we jugglers say, as we don't say we play together.
No.
No. That would be wrong. Ooh,
I love you.
Yeah. So we ended up doing a gig together where I was filling in for his partner and realized that, oh, wow, this is great. And so...
What year was this?
Oh, gosh, this was probably late 90s, I'm guessing. And then we continued to do some corporate gigs together on and off. And we started hanging out all the time. And mid 2000s, we became a full-time act.
Really? So but I think I met you guys in 2001 or 2.
Oh yeah. Because we've known Penn for.
Yeah. Oh, so you knew him separately?
No, we knew him together because we would be in Vegas doing corporate gigs together, and we also both knew Michael Godot. So
okay, but that was that had to be 2001.
Oh, definitely, because I knew Penn before he met you.
I assumed you two had been working together for years at that point.
No. We
Huh.
had. I'm guessing it
Wow.
was late '90s that we. I think it was '98 that we did our first gig together.
Oh, okay. All right.
So yeah, I mean, obviously we have been working together forever.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, the worst thing about him and being on the road is his terrible taste in music. I mean, let's face it.
Well,
he likes, he likes
it's
musicals and '80s hair bands. It's just the worst.
It is, and I mean, I can't believe that it's a testament to his bullheadedness that you haven't been able to make any real inroads into his taste.
I know.
In 20 years. You know what I mean? He's still as dumb as it can possibly be about anything tasteful in music.
I know.
And it's what I call, the lowest common denominator. I mean, if he sees, a soprano singing some, treacly fucking ballad in a goddamn, corporate written musical, and tears will stream down his face.
I know,
because it's emotionally moving.
I know. I tell you. So I'll tell you a secret about working in a duo act, because you are very close to it. You work in a duo act. You work with Penn, and you work with one of the most famous duo acts of all time, right? And I've often bonded with Penn over this: the level to which you have to hate the person that you work with, but it's deep love and deep hate, and we are very open with each other about it. And we joke about it all the time. It's what makes us such a great working relationship and such great friends, is that we like to see each other in pain. So one of the things that his mom was dying, and I thought, well, what can I do to support him during this, really difficult time? So I decided that I knew that the thing that would make him really happy was if I was in pain. So I said, okay, this is what I'm going to do for you. Every day, I am going to listen to a shitty song of your choice, and I will do it, and I will report back how much pain I was in. And he was besides himself with glee. It was a parade of terrible musical songs. The saccharine, most but above and beyond, the worst one was Styx.
Oh yeah.
He chose, of course, the longest Styx song that he could find. And now, to be fair, there's nothing wrong with the musicianship of anybody who played in Styx. I mean, obviously they can all play, it's all great, but to me, it's like nails on a blackboard. That style of these 80s bands like Styx, Foreigner, Journey, all of it just is like not my taste. He throws a particularly bad song for me, and he knew it. And that's how we show love, is to
force the other one to suffer.
Force the other one to suffer. Yeah, force myself. So in this case, I forced myself to suffer so he would have happiness.
Right. Well, I'm assuming that somewhere along the way, Toto was in there, because I feel the same way about them as you do about Styx, and I'm no fan of Styx, but that Toto, and that again, you're talking about some of the best musicians on the planet.
Yeah,
making
that drummer.
Pure shit.
Jeff O'Connor.
I mean, making garbage music, just insultingly bad, horrific. I mean, I'm sure I'm not going to get a call to play keyboards in the reincarnation of Toto. But I mean, it's just the kind of stuff that I say, I guess there's a market for it. Well, clearly they're a popular band. Which,
it's just taste. I mean, it's like there's no accounting for
and
taste.
I'm joking.
Look, I love ABBA because it was the first crush I had on a woman. I mean, I know it's bad taste, but it's
but I mean, that's your childhood.
It is.
I mean, it's the same thing. I love Led Zeppelin because when I was a kid,
they were good.
Yeah, I know, but I was also a kid growing up in a house with 2-player pianos and listening to Oscar Peterson and Teddy Wilson and Art Tatum. And my friends were all listening to AC/DC and Led Zeppelin and Pink Floyd. And I said, I don't know if I like that music. And my friend Paul Andel put on like Led Zeppelin 3 or 4 or one of Led Zeppelin albums. And I said, wait a minute, this is a good guitar player. This is really good. And then all of a sudden I was hooked. And, so whenever I hear anything to do with Zeppelin, I'm there. It really, but that's, as Penn has gone on, and studies have shown the music that you hear from, around puberty is music that really sticks with you at a level that a lot of other music doesn't, that comes and goes.
Yeah.
And certainly the case for me.
I was the impetus to have, was Penn and I did that experiment. We're listening to Taylor Swift, that one album together for.
Couldn't talk me into it.
What's crazy is I got really into it. I totally dug it. I mean, it worked. It worked.
Right. I believe that. Yeah, I believe because little kids listen to the same thing over and over like we did. You know what I mean? You bought a record home, and at least in my case, and you played it, and you played because you spent $6 on it or $4. You played it to death, and you knew. I mean, to this day, the only musical that I like besides some of the classic American musicals, I don't like the musical, but the music in some of the Rodgers and Hart and the Gershwin and the, and Rodgers and Hammerstein, there's music in those musicals that became standards that I love. Putting that aside, I think that Jesus Christ Superstar is a great musical.
I do in terms like that of one. I like West Side Story. That's another one.
Yeah, see, that doesn't. I mean, I understand it and I appreciate it for the compositional aspects of it, but Jesus Christ Superstar hit me as I was learning about rock, and the fact that these great musicians were on it playing this soundtrack that was so cool. I didn't even care about the lyrical content. I just was into the sound and the band. And, it's again, it was at that 11, 12-year-old age that I heard it first. And I can tell you that, I played that record so much. I know every note that's coming on that record if you were to put it on for me today. I know every riff. I know every aside, and it just sticks with you,
Yes.
But and I'm sure that if somebody were to voluntarily subject themselves to Taylor Swift over and over again, like I did to Jesus Christ Superstar, they would start to say, "Oh yeah, this is great," And I mean, and I don't take anything away from her. She's obviously a brilliant businesswoman and a brilliant performer. And I'm a 63-year-old man. Nothing in her act speaks to me. You know what I mean?
And that's fine. And it's an interesting experiment to see, and I often do that. I often listen to for a while to things that what the kids listen to these days.
Right.
And see, is there something there for me? Is there something that speaks to me? And sometimes there is, and oftentimes not, and that's okay, But the fact remains, I think nothing quite hits the emotional note as the music that hit right at that time of puberty, or or when you're a little kid, when you're first starting exploring music.
Yeah,
it just has an emotional resonance, I guess.
Yeah, no, it's true. I mean, I remember the day that my dad put on an Art Tatum record for me, and I was probably 6 or 7. And I'd been playing the piano for several years at that point because I started really young, because we had the player pianos in my house, and my older brother, who was 5 years older, was taking lessons. And I guessed that, at 3.5, I was getting up on the piano bench and plucking out what he was doing. So my parents mistakenly thought, we can turn this into money. Let's get him some lessons, right? And
that's so funny. They thought jazz music would make you
They
money.
did not. I'm joking. They knew that I liked it, because I would be down there, because the piano that we had downstairs in the basement, my dad had the basement all redone like an old bar. And we had a roulette wheel and 1,000 piano rolls and slot machines and all this stuff in Buffalo, New York in the 60s. And he had beer on tap, and a jukebox. And every Friday and Saturday night, everyone would come to our house. And it was like a nightclub. And but the piano that we had downstairs was an upright player piano that you pumped with your feet. That's created the vacuum to make the thing work. And for a 4-year-old, there was nothing more fun than putting your feet up and down on the pedals and watching the keys go up and down, you know? And I mean, from the earliest time, it was like the guys that I liked were Fats Waller and Pete Wendling and these guys that were jazzier, I didn't care about, Roses of Picardy and, those kind of roles. They never got played, but Snake Hips by Fats Waller got played a lot. And I learned, the rudiments of stride and what was going on. And, but that was all my, it's been with me my whole life, and it's, if I can still hear like the player piano roll intro to these songs that I played 50 years ago, you know what I mean?
Right.
And, but enough about me. Let's go more about you. So you started working with Scotty in the late 90s, and then you've just developed it into a multi-billion-dollar corporation. But most of your work now, you say you don't really juggle that much, huh?
No, I mean, we still do our juggling act, a fair amount. But it's a weird thing. It happened somewhere along the line that we had a client our biggest client, where the CMO at the time said, everything must be business related. No, and it went for the whole, all their conferences. So out were anything, a juggling, magic, anything like that. And so the people on the floor said to us, hey, we can't hire you, because back then all we did was juggling,
right?
And
sure,
comedy. And then they said, can you be funny without being funny? And we were like, sure, we can do that.
Sure.
Wait, what do we do now? And that started us off on an entirely different line and formats of how to create the scripts that we were doing. And then people started seeing us do that. And other people started hiring us doing that. And so it's an odd thing as we've aged, and we don't really want to escape from straitjackets on 6-foot unicycles 10 times in a day at a trade show.
Right.
It's like, we can still do all the same things that we used to do, but we don't want to do them with perhaps quite the same frequency. So it's proved very useful as we're aging that we don't have to do it as much, but we still like doing it.
Yeah.
So we're still working jugglers, and we still do our act. But we also have this whole other thing that we do now where we just stand there and talk. And I don't know if you've noticed, but the ability to talk does not diminish with age.
No, it's clearly not in your case. Or
not at all.
Or pens. But no, I mean, going back to, the whole duo thing, it's hysterical to me to watch Penn and Teller interact, because they're so clearly aligned with their thinking, and yet Penn will go on a great lengths to say, he drives me crazy with this. And Teller will say, he drives me out of my mind with this. And yet their vision is the same for what, and which was, I guess, bonded, 50 years ago, forged 50 years ago. The way that they think about things is very similar. It's just Teller brings a much more artistic flair to it, and Penn brings a much more practical application of things. And they know, as I'm sure you do, they know each other's strengths and weaknesses so well that they never are tempted to meddle in each other's strengths. Like Penn is very content to watch Teller move a chair on stage for a half an hour.
I think that it's very, very hard to explain to people who are not in duo acts, and duo acts are, a dying breed.
Right.
Sure. It's not as much what people are doing, up and coming.
Right. There's no teams. Yeah.
In variety arts or comedy or whatever it may be. But that way of working is if you last, it's because you have figured out a groove, and the groove in most duo acts that I know that are successful is a groove of where you can be completely honest. You don't waste time on niceties. You don't, and that comes from a foundation of total respect and total love. It's Scotty and I can say, I often say to him, we have to be careful when we're around other people because they don't know our shorthand. So when we're around you or other people who know us really well, we don't have to worry. But when we're around, the uninitiated, they think we're mean to each other, but we're really not. That's our love language.
Yes, exactly.
It is how we speak, and it's how we get shit done quickly. Is that we don't waste time on the on being overly civil. And it's also why we don't really fight. We don't have actual fights ever. We just
that's an important thing, and it's and I see that all the time with Penn and Teller. They have 50 years. They just know how to treat each other. Let's put it that way,
and it's different in every duo act. There's some different steps that you have to take to make that work and what works for you. And you figure out what those are, and you obviously figure out each other's strengths and all of that stuff. But for the most part, lots of duo acts break up because they eventually all bands break up, right?
Yeah. Well, that's what Penn was saying about, actually there was just a big article in the New York Times.
Yeah, read it.
Penn and Teller.
Loved it.
They didn't talk to me wisely, probably. No. But that whole idea that, they fall in love, duo partner, sometimes fall in love, and then the love affair breaks up, and that breaks up the act. And, certainly happened with Lennon and McCartney. But the idea that Penn knows how good Teller is, and Teller knows how good Penn is. And that's the basis of why they're still together. You know what I mean? It's amazing. I've been with them. They've been performing as Penn and Teller. The 50 years thing is since they met each other, basically, right? I don't know what. I think they've been performing as Penn and Teller since the early 80s, maybe 81 or 82. Jack could tell us. Handsome Jack would know the day that they started working together as Penn and Teller. But that means I've been with them half their career.
And amazing.
Yeah, and there's a level of when I met, and I'm going on more than I usually do in these things because usually I keep my mouth shut. But when I first did my first jazz cruise in the early 90s, and I met Clark Terry and Jerry Mulligan and John Bunch and Lou Donaldson and all these guys, every one of those people had this serenity about them in their position in history and their position on their instrument, that they didn't have a fucking thing to prove to anyone. And they were pleasant and kind and spent time with a young idiot guy like me, showing me stuff and putting up with my inane questions, and all of them, there's this vast difference between that level of success and musicianship and the level right underneath it. Because the level right underneath it is everybody's cutthroat and bad-mouthing everybody and talking shit, and nobody's comfortable in their own skin, And I had seen a lot of that in New York and a lot of that in Boston with a lot of different people. But once you get to be around that level, there's a sense of self that they have that I wanted to have. You know what I mean? Like for what it's worth, I think I'm really good at what I do, and that's what allows
definitely
me.
That.
But that's where I'm happy. You know what I mean? I don't have to worry that there's an 18-year-old kid that can outplay me, because maybe he can. Maybe there's 1,000 18-year-old kids that outplay me, but I'm not in competition with them. I've done what I want with my life, and I'm really good at it. And I get that. That's what drew me to Penn when I met him in Penn and Teller as a group, because they said, "Why, we want you to play in our show." And I thought to myself, these are guys that are really comfortable in their lives and really comfortable with the success that they've had, and they've worked harder than any two guys I've ever met. to maintain that level of popularity and success. And I wanted to be around that. You know what I mean? I wanted to be a part of that. And I still do, but it's a real tribute to their ability to understand each other that allows them to still be friends and working together. And as I said, the whole pretense of the New York Times article was that he's not my friend, and of course they're closer than any two human beings on the planet, probably,
But
it's
I think that there's also, it's a thing that they've always said, and there is it has worked for them. Does that make sense? Because underneath it, I think to some extent, of course, they're each other's BFFs. It's the same way exactly. I am with Scotty. There's no one that I trust, respect, or love more than Scotty. It's
I'm sorry.
I know. I'll never say this to his face, and of course, he's never going to listen to this. I'm in it. Yeah. That's not going to happen. So
you certainly deserve better. I think. But no, I mean, everybody loves Scotty, and it's impossible not to love him.
And it's impossible
unless you meet him.
Yeah, there is that. But once you have established some sort of core of how does this work for us, which Penn and Teller obviously have done, and other successful variety acts that I know. I mean, it's hard to be more successful than Penn and Teller. We certainly aren't. But we've carved out a very nice niche in the entertainment world for ourselves and made a decent living. And, there are lots of ways that you can exist as an entertainer in this world. And our path was not to become famous, but in the little Venn diagram of what we have done with our lives, of the things that he and I are good at, which is, we're never going to be the best jugglers. We're never the best comedians. We're not the best writers. But if you put together our skill set in each of these things and you put it towards what we have done in with our act and in the corporate world, we're pretty good.
Yeah.
So, and enough that we've made a good living and we've had a great deal of fun doing it. Yeah. It's been a great career, a great ride.
Well, another 30 years and it'll be fine. And I
feel, oddly enough, it's funny because when you're talking, I feel the same way about music. There was it wasn't my path to be the best drummer I probably could have been had I applied myself 100% to this craft. I would have been better than I am. But I'm completely content with playing fun gigs, making the best music that I can. Okay, make a little money at it while I'm doing it. But,
keyword little.
But just that I've met a lot of bitter jazz musicians, in particular in my time, because the craft of becoming very good at jazz is there's so much to know, so much to learn, there's so much to get good at. And it's super easy to get stuck in a place of, it was so much better, once upon a time, or it was easier to get gigs, or people appreciating you. There's all kinds of things that can go where you can get bitter about how good you are at the craft versus how much people care. And I think that is a path to unhappiness.
It is.
You just got to play the music. And then if people like it, they like it. And if they don't, they don't.
That's, and I mean, I'm going to take this opportunity to set the record straight, because it's impossible to set the record straight. But, Penn loves portraying me as this bitter jazz musician.
Which you are. Go on, let's say
of course I'm not. You know what I mean? I've got one of the greatest.
But in a loving way.
But he thinks it's, I act, I talk shit because it's funny. But I mean, I have had an unbelievable run in my life. You know what I mean? Penn did happen to meet me at possibly the worst moment of my life.
That's a very funny story.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm playing the worst gig of my life. I'm out of all my savings. My mom had just died. And yes, I admit to being a little bitter at that time. Mostly with the customers at the Eiffel Tower that would tell me I sucked because I didn't play enough Billy Joel. But I mean, I've always been really happy and comfortable with my playing and the people that I get to play with. And certainly, ecstatic about playing in the Penn and Teller show and writing music for that show. I am not bitter at all, and yet Penn pigeonholed me as this, and
We
I
all
love
do,
making.
Jonesy. But
I
it's
know.
in a loving
But
way,
it's,
Jonesy.
well, yeah, and I play it up because I love because I think it's funny.
It
You
is
know what I
funny.
mean? I
We
think
all
it's
have to
really
have a
funny
character in
to
life.
be a miserable prick, but of course I'm not. I have a really happy life. And it's I see. I do know really really bitter miserable jazz musicians that have never got broken out and never gotten any kind of recognition, and they're monster players.
Mhm.
And I don't begrudge them that hostility, but it's never going to get you a gig. You know what I mean?
No,
I
it
mean,
just seems like a miserable way to live.
yeah. I mean,
Because it'll always, it sounds so cliche, and is that the cliche of there are always people who are more successful than you, and then people who are less. And,
right.
But what I have noticed in my life is that how successful you've been as an entertainer seems to have very little bearing on how well you function in life and how happy you are in life.
Right. Right.
A lot is making a decision about finding comfort in where you are.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
true.
I didn't make it as a famous juggler. No juggler ever did, or a famous drummer. But I love where I am.
Yeah, you have a great life.
I feel very, very grateful for the career I've had in both.
Yeah.
Obviously, I've been more successful as a juggler, but
yeah, but the fact is, you can do both of them for the rest of your life too.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny. I talk about this occasionally too, but my brother, who had maybe one of the worst jobs in the world, retired at 57 years old. He was very, very, very good with his money.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe he put like half of his entire pay away every pay period. Wow. And so he worked for Erie County, and it was a job that nobody wants, just a horrific job.
What did he do?
He was a probation officer for sex offenders.
Oh dear.
Yes.
Oh dear.
So anyhow, after he had put in like maybe 30 years, and they were going to have some contract that would take something away from him that they were renegotiating. So he just retired, and he's got full benefits, medical, pay for the rest of his life. And I see him, and he is so happy not having to, well, certainly anyone would be happy not having to do that job, but he's so happy and content in his life now. And he reads, he's real intellectual, and he does what he wants after 30 years of doing what he didn't want. And that's a great thing. But I want to be 99 years old playing a gig at the Green Mill, where I'm eating my pudding between sets. I don't want to ever stop doing what I'm doing, and I hope I can do it forever, And so the idea of retiring, that's what I'm saying to you. You can do this for the rest of your life. You know what I mean? I don't know that you will, but you'll do it in some form. You're not going to stop playing drums.
No, I'm not going to stop. No. And I think that's the way I think Scotty and I feel about it, is that, we're going to keep doing this till the wheels fall off.
Yeah.
The same way Penn and Teller are doing it, they're doing it at a more successful level. But when you love what you do, you keep doing it, and then, and if it ends, when it does end, if it does at one point, then okay. It was a great ride.
Yeah, no, it's been a great ride. Yeah, exactly. Well, and as I say, eventually Penn and Teller, maybe not the way they're going, maybe not for another 20 years, but
they are amazing. They are, for all variety acts everywhere. They are unbelievable. I cannot imagine an act that at their age is not riding on the laurels, keep writing new stuff, keep throwing it into the act. It is admirable.
It is. And as I say to Penn, when he says, I'm old, I'm getting old, I just want to, move to Spain. And, I say, I saw Tony Bennett when he was 90 over at the Wind. And he blew the doors off the place. I said, you got another 20 years, pal.
I have seen in the last, couple of years, I have been privileged enough to see a bunch of people who were, in the latter part of their career. I saw Gloria Gaynor, who, must be like 88. I saw Elton John, at Thelma Houston, a bunch of singers who, where you go, okay, this got to be it, right? And they sounded amazing.
It is.
They were.
I think
Thelma Houston was like 81 and doing high kicks. For God's sake. I mean, it was like, you go, all right, there's hope.
I say to everyone, if you don't kill yourself with drink or drugs, you're probably going to do well. And look, I mean, all those musicians that I played those jazz cruises for were all in their late 70s, early 80s, sometimes close to 90. And every one of them played as well as they ever did, And that's what I mean. Without being egotistical, I think I'm a better piano player now than I was last year at this time,
Yep.
And I hope that next year I'm better than I am now. And that, because you keep learning and you keep practicing and playing and, coming up with new ideas. And, I look at the Giants, before Oscar had his stroke, he was in his late 60s, early 70s, playing at the same level or better that he played at in his 30s,
And there's something also to when you see an artist like an Oscar Peterson that even if he didn't after the post-stroke had the same exact technical facility, like obviously play incredibly fast and all that stuff, but their gravitas that can happen as a result of a lived experience that where you go, oh, you hear something else,
right?
Even if you perhaps can't technically do, when I saw Elton John, here is a guy who, could he hit the high notes that he had done 30 years earlier? No. Yeah. But you're now hearing a guy where you go, oh, okay, this guy has lived life and still sounded amazing.
Yeah. I saw Elton, but now, probably 15 years ago. And it happened to be his birthday night at the Coliseum. He played for like 2.5 hours. And I said, I like Elton John, fine. But I said, how many acts, besides maybe the Beatles, can go out on stage and every single song they play is not a song you've maybe heard once or twice. It's a song that you grew up with, that every single song he played was a top 10 song for 2.5 hours. You know what I mean?
That's what got to me about seeing Elton John as well. It was like, I was never, he wasn't,
right.
I liked Elton John just fine, but it wasn't somebody that I paid that much
exactly
attention
the same.
And then you go, wait, I know every one of these songs.
Yeah. And you've heard them to death. Yeah. You know what I mean? They're not like, oh, wait, was this a B-side? No, this was another top 10 hit. You know what I mean? I mean, there was some fact years ago I heard that he had like a top 10 song at least one top 10 song every year since 1971. And this was like in 2018. You know what I mean? Yeah. It was stupid. I mean, but you got to love that. I mean, and yeah, well, I think hopefully we'll both be around for a long time.
Yes, hopefully, and we can sit there and yammer about being bitter 90-year-old jazz musicians.
Get off my lawn. Yeah. I don't have a lawn. I mean, how can I yell at kids to get off my lawn? Well, listen, I want to thank you so much, Katrina. This has been a real delight.
Delight, Jonesy.
I think so. And we got to badmouth Scotty, which is
the
good.
Best.
Which is, well, I mean, he deserves it. Clearly.
Of course he does.
And just before, in closing, do you get back to Amsterdam very often?
I do. I do.
Good.
I do. Good. I get back quite often.
No. I'm of course, we all know you're from.
I have given up. I don't even correct you anymore.
That makes me sad. It's part of the joy of my life.
I'm a bitter Dane.
The bitter Dane.
I may not be a jazz musician.
Yes. Why doesn't somebody take our country more seriously? We don't know where it is yet. As soon as we find it on a map, we'll take it more seriously. No, thank you so much, Katrina.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. This was so much fun. Thank you.
So much fun. Well, we'll do it again.
Music.
I hope you enjoyed my chat with Katrine Spang-Hanssen. I talk with her partner Scotty in my next episode. The way Katrina and I talk up Scotty here, you can imagine this episode is not to be missed. If you enjoyed this episode, please like and follow on your favorite podcasting platform, or you can follow us on Instagram or Threads at the.stereo.image.